I got my first request for doing a video, specifically about the use of the Yeni Cafe. What things I recommend for getting the best results. So I'm gonna share my experience of 2 years using this equipment, and I hope that you can get some new useful information and also explain why I roast coffee the way I do it. Yeah, so I hope that you can get some useful information and that you enjoy the video.
Uh, we were, Now we are going to talk about the important things that we have to consider while roasting with organic coffee. The first thing and the most important thing I would say is get a oven thermometer. You cut the metal plates and then you connect it to the chamber with metal wires. This is very important because the measurement in the equipment that is giving you the temperature is in the end of the temperature that you get for the air is after it is in contact with the beans. And it is not very accurate depending on the amount of beans that you have inside. There might be a difference between 10 to 20 degrees, and this 20 degrees make a very big difference, especially in the development time after you have your first scrap. I have here my points, the thermometer, then preheating time, enough that your chamber gets warm. I use 150 degrees as a reference, and it needs probably 4 to 3 minutes until it reaches this temperature. Some recommend to not do it because it might damage the machine. I have the experience that this machine is pretty robust. When I bought it, it was already, I think, 10 years old, and I have been roasting coffee for over a year, very intensively. So I think it can handle it, but well, that's my experience with the machine. Then another point that is very important is the charge. But before we continue, let me check the temperature. We are right now at 200 degrees. The beans are still green. We have not yet achieved the end of the drying phase. That might need probably 2 minutes more. The general recommendation is a maximum of 250 to 110 degrees. But I think in my experiments I have been pushing the weight till 280, and there's a reason why I do it. It's because the way the heat is transferred to the beans is the hot air that comes from the chamber. So hot air hits the beans and left the system, and hot air doesn't have a very good heat transfer. So the efficiency at which the air transfers its warmth to the beans is very low. The higher the mass that we have in the chamber, more it appears the effect that warm beans transfer through direct conductive heat it warms to the other bean. And this is a much more efficient heat transfer than what it happens with air. That's why having a higher thermal mass helps having a more uniform roasting. And what other people describe in the past while working with the Yeni Cafe is that if you use too much coffee, it's going to take long. You are going to have more scorching of the beans, but that wasn't my experience, and I will say that was probably because there was no really idea of what the actual temperature inside is. Because of course, if you have more beans inside, the heat is gonna start building up, and at some point the information in your device is going to be too far away to what the actual temperature inside is. And you can avoid this problem by installing a thermometer. So I will go with higher than 250. There are some limitations when you're working with not washed but dry coffee, because they have more of a, now we achieve dry phase, we are at 220 degrees. We can start lowering a little bit the temperature. I was at 250 before, now I'm gonna go to 240. If you're using natural coffee, the skin, this soft layer of skin on the beans, it's still there, contrary to when you were half washed coffee. And these layers are going to build up on the exhaust of the chamber, and it can happen that at some point it's too much and the air can escape, causing it to get too warm, and the little pieces of skin of the beans start burning. I had this experience before. So with dry process, what's the word? Dry process coffee, you want to use less beans, but for example, also was my experience working with 260 to 270 grams was fine. Thanks. That's about the charge. And also one question will be, okay, if I use a higher amount of beans, then it's going to take a lot longer for the beans to reach first crack, and my roast is going to stale because they're going to be baked and not roasted. My experience was, yes, of course it takes longer until you reach the drying phase. But once your beans are like in the position they are now, so now we are probably 2-3 minutes into the browning phase, they actually take less time to develop, because all this warmth that it was built helps the roasting to happen a lot more quicker. So we continue. We're now at the delicate phase where we have to control the temperature. Right now we're at 230. I think 235. We might decrease a little bit the temperature. Now we have around 240 inside the chamber, and here it shows me 230. That's the importance of the thermometer inside. Perfect. I don't need to keep increasing the temperature. Probably soon we're gonna start hearing first crack around 240 degrees. Perfect. We're gonna let it keep roasting at this temperature. And the next point is, how high do I have to go with my temperature? Because what I'm measuring here is the temperature of the air, the combination of the air and the heat that is in the metal parts, but it's not the actual bean temperature. How high should I go? I will describe it this way. You have to be high enough that you can hear the first crack, and that is generally between, I don't know if you can hear it from here. That's first crack. Perfect. Now from that moment, we need probably between 1 and 2 minutes of development time. Sorry that I have to interrupt, but we have to be careful with this phase, that the temperature doesn't jump too much. We're having a nice cracking of the beans. The smell is also very important. I'm gonna describe it in a minute. But first, we take a careful look at the surface, and I think that's gonna be enough. So now, let's get our piece out. Another very important point. we're gonna go back to the topic of temperature, but now that we're here cooling our beans, another very important topic is cooling the beans quickly enough. What I do is I put it in this, I don't know the name of this piece, but so that they have a little bit of air to go through. You don't want the water content that is still there to stay trapped inside. And then what I do, and you're gonna hear it, is I put it on a clean floor, because the floor has a lot of thermal capacity. So the beans are gonna transfer all their heat to the floor. We have a big enough surface that it can handle the heat of the beans. Of course, don't do it in a wood floor or something that might get damaged by the heat of the beans. You have to consider that the beans are right now probably 200, 220 degrees. Exactly. And now we just let it cool down there, and we talk about the temperature. It needs to be high enough that you get first crack, and that's in the chamber between 230 and 235 degrees. How do you know that the temperature was too high? After you finish your roasting, now they are warm. I don't know if you can see it from here. When you finish roasting, you take a look at the surface of the beans. If they are glossy, it means the heat was so high that it forced some of the lipids, some of the fats of the bean to go outside, and it is a sign that the temperature was so high that it created some deep damage in the structure of the beans. It means it was probably too high, or you were roasting for too long. Also the smell. I will describe the smell of achieving the right point of the roasting as trying to cook with some brown sugar and lemon zest, a lemonade, making a lemonade with brown sugar and lemon zest. This slightly citrusy smell is something that you normally get when you achieve the development time, because and my assumption is that it comes from the chlorogenic acid that it's being broken down. That is a nice smell. If you roast for in a too low temperature, you might get the color. You might get beans that are the right color, but you never got to smell this citrusy note. And it is a sign that the temperature wasn't high enough to break down the chlorogenic acid and get all these important aromatic compounds. So yes, going too low means too low of a temperature is you don't hear first crack and you don't smell the citrusy notes. Too high of a temperature, generally you get a glossy finish on the beans. And all this fat that is on the surface also means that the beans are gonna the shelf life of the beans is gonna be a lot shorter. You have to drink it faster, because all this fat that is on the outside layer, it's gonna get rancid to a certain degree. It's gonna get a little bit of this off notes. How another way you control if your development time was too long, was at too much of a higher temperature, is measuring the weight again. So we started at 280, and we're gonna see in a second how much weight we have left. So we had 280 in the beginning, and now we didn't it didn't went too well. Wait. We have a little bit over, that's I think 14-15% weight loss. I'm gonna correct. I wanted not to go higher than 15%, but the beans are looking nice. So they are not glossy. It's hard to look from here. And they're not too dark. And they look pretty uniform. So you can see also here, using 280 degrees, except by some singular beans, it looks pretty uniform. We also don't have scorched beans. It is looking really nice. Those are normal defects that you can expect by the kind of coffee that I got. It's not the highest quality because high quality beans are right now extremely expensive. So that's what we can afford. Perfect. Next week, because we need to let them degas for a while, we can do the taste test and I can tell you how they taste like.